I want to go right to former Lieutenant General of the United States Army. He was the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency under Barack Obama, and he was the National Security Advisor under President Donald Trump. Of course, that is Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Mr. Flynn, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on, and I really appreciate you guys at Breitbart for what you continue to represent to this country.
Well, we're doing the best we can. I know you are as well. I should also say, General Flynn, subject of the new movie, Flynn. And you go to Flynn with 2 N's, flynnmovie.com. You can watch the trailer, pre-order, all that good stuff. Flynn, and find showings as well in a town near you. Sir, can we do some basics here, if you don't mind? Just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. What is the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency? What is that job?
That job entails running all defense intelligence activities that include all of the military services, so Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, intelligence services. Also running operations at in all embassies around the world. So when I was the director, we had operations being run out of 142 embassies globally. We run an entire university. We run an intelligence university. We run medical intelligence command for biological weapons, for nuclear weapons, for chemical weapons. So any foreign military activities. In fact, we have a foreign military intelligence activity that's part of the Defense Intelligence Agency. It is roughly 20,000 people. A unclassified budget of about close to $10 billion, and we operate all over the world. And it's a pretty extensive organization. It's one of the largest intel agencies in the world, and you also serve as the senior military intelligence officer for the Department of Defense in that job, in that position. And the other big component of it is you are the commander for all intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance assets that the Department of Defense maintains. So it's a pretty big job.
That sounds so absurdly massive and impossible.
Yeah.
How can that possibly be you know what I mean? Like, I mean, you did it.
Yeah, well,
where do you even begin?
I
don't even know what question to ask about that job.
That's okay.
Because
Mike, I'll tell you, part of it is like I tell people, they don't sprinkle fairy dust on you and poof, you're a general and you're a head of DIA. I spent three decades training myself, and preparing myself for a position like that. I worked in all the different fields for the most part throughout my career. In the military, and I got to that. And I also served 5 years in combat operations overseas too. So I've been on 6 continents. So I mean, it is. It's an incredible job. It's a humbling position when you go into it. And I did have really good people when I was there, but I did also find when I got into that job that, I had worked with DIA in my other positions in the military. But when I get into that job, I found out how much, when we talk about the military-industrial complex and the deep levels of corruption that do exist, and the movie does touch on this, I found out even more. What I thought I knew, I found out even more. I learned even more. So. And I do touch on this in the movie. I touch on the censorship state, the security state, the military-industrial complex, and why we are where we are in this country today. And people can go to flynnmovie.com and the name of the movie is Flynn, Deliver the Truth, Whatever the Cost. And it cost me, almost nearly both my cheeks.
We're in such a wild time because. As you were describing that job, Defense Intelligence, Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, you're listing all these awesome things, like these baller things that are so cool that I'm thinking about. But now I'm in this weird place, and I think I think other people are joining me in this journey. That now I'm like, oh wait, no, like I'm pretty cynical about these things now.
Exactly.
And didn't you just describe the deep state?
Yep.
And so weren't you the director of the deep state?
I was the director of part of the deep state. You're right. and I was inside. So if you think about it, I was inside trying to do massive reform, and of course, in this case, in one agency that is a pretty extensive agency, and in fact, I talk about it in the movie. When I went in, I was starting in on audits, right? You start to do audits. I mean, I'm a part of my thing is finance and looking at budgets and stuff like that. Despite, in addition to doing intelligence work, right? But as a director, you're not doing intelligence work. You got tens of thousands of other people doing that kind of work. My responsibility is to make sure that the organization's running, properly and legally and ethically and morally. And what I discovered was that was none of the case. And when you start to interoperate with other organizations like the CIA or the NSA, National Security Agency, or other intelligence agencies, I also had FBI components inside of the DIA, and and I knew some of this going in, and they knew that me coming in, because I'm known as a reformer, so I get hired to come in to fix things. And that's the way my career has been from the time I was probably a mid-grade officer. There's many organizations I got hired to go in to fix, because that's just what I became known for in the military. It's particularly in the organizations I went into from the time I was probably a major or lieutenant colonel. And of course, DIA was just another level of command and another level of operations for me, and it needed massive reform. So I'm hired to go in there, and when I started to really dig in, that's when they came after me. And then I also discuss in the movie this idea of towing the party line, right? Towing the party line, meaning if you don't follow the narrative that's coming out of the White House, now this is under the Obama administration, if you don't follow the narrative coming out of the White House and you go against it, and in my case, I went against it because it was the truth. I didn't go against it because I was bullshitting the American people, excuse my Irish, but I wasn't, that's just not my style. And of course I went against that grain, and that got me crosswise with the administration. And I ended up, instead of, normally spending a job in a job like that for about 3, maybe 4 years, I ended up finishing up at 2 years. And, so it's just one of those things where you get in there and you find out and you start to fix things. And next thing you know, they're looking at you going, okay, he's digging in too much here. We got to get him out of here because he's going to find things out. And I did. I found a lot of things out. And that's why when I came.
Can you share?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Can you share something that was broken? What was broken? What did you find out that they didn't want you to?
Well, I'll give you one example. I looked at 6 years of audits. Okay, just financial audits. All right, 6 years I looked at, and that organization never passed one. So they failed, and in the intelligence world, everything's classified, right? So when you start to, if somebody was investigator or somebody was digging into it, they would go, well, it's classified, we can't talk about it. So I could look at it, and I did, and I found out that there was, literally almost a decade's worth of failure in an organization and I'm saying to myself, and others, and where is this? So where does this go? Where did this money go? Who's getting this, right? And you start to dig in, and next thing you know, you're like, people are going, holy crap. And I described some of this in the movie because this is why when I became National Security Advisor, and I talk about this in the movie, and people can go to flynnmovie.com. I talk about this in the movie because all of a sudden when I become National Security Advisor, you are now over the top of not just the DIA, you're over the top of the intel community, the 17 intel agencies. You're over the top of the Department of Defense. You're over the top of the Department of State and some of these other organizations as the National Security Advisor, and you're close to the president. You have the ear of the president of the United States, and you're on all the big decisions. So now I can really, that's a position of authority that is very responsible and actually can do good things for the country. And now people see it for what it is, and they had to get rid of me right away, and they did. They did a masterful job. And it wasn't just the Obama administration. There were people around President Trump, and I'll tease that out there, Mike, because there were people close to President Trump that enabled this. And like I say in the movie, you know, he wasn't totally aware of it at that time. Now he is. Now he understands it.
Yeah. Who's the they?
Well, you got to go to.
And I guess
you got to go to the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we're out today. Yeah, and so there's a couple of things. There's a couple of names that are dropped in there, and part of the story. It's an excellent story that we're telling. I mean, it's an unbelievable movie. We had 500 people in a theater last night, and I mean, universally, people are coming and saying, "Oh my God, it's an amazing movie, amazing story," and I just did not know. You know, because it's not just about a woe is me, Mike Flynn. You know, this is about what we are facing in this country right now. That's what this movie is about. And if we don't get this right, if people don't understand if they don't understand my story, then they're going to have a very difficult time understanding all the other aspects of what's coming on, what's coming our way. And actually today's the first day where people can go to flynnmovie.com, and now we're streaming. For that, you can get it on rent. You know, you can rent it, or you can own it, or you can buy the DVD. But we're streaming on Salem. We're streaming on iTunes. We're streaming on various platforms, so people can go to that website and download it for $4.99. I think is what it is. So
there's nothing. They're worth it. Flynnmovie.com. FLYNN.
Yep, flynnmovie.com.
So let me ask this big picture question.
Yep.
What forces? And I guess the word forces, I can think of either systems, which we can change those potentially. It may be difficult, but they can be changed. Or human nature, which can't be changed.
Right.
So we can answer either way. But what forces are at play in the deep state that are no good, that are a problem?
Yeah. So, okay. So, you know, this is Breitbart. You know, Andrew Breitbart, you know, he used the phrase, you know, politics is downstream from culture. Well, we have organizations with the worst culture in government, right? Government organizations, federal government organizations that think that they know what's best for you, America, and for you, audience. And so some of these organizations, you cannot reform the culture. It's just so over the top gone. And some of those organizations do exist in federal law enforcement, like the FBI, right? There's others like the Department of Education. Like people ask me all the time, Mike, you know, thinking that my answer is going to be get rid of the FBI because of what they're doing to people like me, what they're doing to people like Donald J. Trump. You know, it's. I always say, you know what, I would do that. I would, you know, shut their doors. But the most important department in this country, the most important federal organization, is the Department of Education. That's a department that if we don't eliminate the Department of Education, I mean, eliminate it. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, states and counties and parents don't have a responsibility, but the Department of Education is not an organization that can be reformed. Their culture at that level is basically, we know what's best for your children, and they've come after our children. And that's an area where, as a national security advisor, I can actually affect that. People think the national security advisor, they don't even know what it is. They think, oh, it's just some guy that has something to do with stuff going on overseas. No, it's domestic and foreign. And to me, education, it's not education reform. It's shutting down the Department of Education. I mean, I'm serious. I'm deadly serious about this. If we don't, this is I mean, if there's one thing, I like to have fun. I got an Irish sense of humor, but I'm also a very serious guy because I do clearly understand which direction our country is going, and we're going in the wrong direction. We're off the rails right now. And so that's just one example, the Department of Education. I mentioned the FBI, and there are others. There are commissions, activities, agencies, and departments in the government, in the United States government. And three of those things that I just said, most people don't even realize, commissions and activities, right? There's so many commissions and so many activities and other agencies that need to be shut down. They're just out of control. They're costly and they're corrupt. And we have to, and that's sort of like, why me? Why Mike Flynn? Well, Mike Flynn, and why did the deep state, why did the rest of the deep state, why did the Obama administration, why did Barack Obama say, don't hire Flynn? I mean, you can't make it up. That's what he told Trump. You know, as the transitioning the entire country, he tells Trump, don't hire this guy, General Flynn. Well, Barack Obama, you hired me twice, you SO, you know, and why did you hire me twice? Because sometimes it's a matter of bringing your enemies closer, and I do believe that. And I learned that. So, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that at the time I didn't realize it, but now I realize it. So there are reforms that our government must go through in order to continue on as a constitutional republic. If we don't go through them and this federal overreach continues the way it's continuing, the way it's going right now, then I'm afraid that we're going to end up as the United Socialist States of America. I talk about all this in the movie. I describe not just my story and what happened to me in the persecution that I went through, but I actually go back to the 60s, and I'll just tease out a little bit here. I go back to the 60s and talk about the assassination of the 60s, okay, of Kennedy, both of them, you know, Martin Luther King. So there's a reason for us to reassess those in order to understand how much our country is, you know, how far they're willing to go. You know, given what they did in the 60s, how far are they willing to go now? And I think people need to understand that. It's hard. I talk about that in the movie. I'm sorry.
No. It's hard to do that, General, because if you start to reassess those and ask those questions, you can go to some pretty dark places that may be true, but really hard to grapple with and hard to accept.
Most
you
people.
Know? And it's hard to do that.
Yeah, most people in America, most people just want to be left alone, right? You just kind of want to do, you just want to do your job. You just want to, raise your family. You want to, you want to do the things that you like to do as an American. You don't want to be bothered by these, these people in Washington, D.C. But guess what, folks, audience? We're the ones that put them there, right? We're the ones that put them there. And so we have to take we have to take some responsibility as citizens in this country for the actions that our country is now taking against us. And our founders and many of the real strong leaders in our own history warned us about all this stuff. And so we have some time, we have some breathing space here. They're going after Trump. They still come after me. I joke, I say that, he gets a subpoena, I get a subpoena. There's people that they fear, and they fear certain of us because we are, I will speak for myself in this case. There's an incorruptibility in the certain fiber of certain people, and when they cannot corrupt you, right? Then they try to destroy you, and we're now in a world of narrative assassination, right? Narrative assassination, because it's so hard to physically assassinate somebody these days. And I talk about that in the movie. And people can go to flynnmovie.com and the name of the film is Flynn, Deliver the Truth, whatever the cost. And this will cost me. This will cost me a lot. And that's okay. That's okay.
When they can't corrupt you, they'll try to destroy you. General Flynn, I have one last question for you, and I know where you are, but no one else says. I'm trying to guess, but it's in the background. It sounds like you're at the dump.
I am. No, not at the dump.
Nailed it.
No, you were perfect. So you were really close. I'd probably give you the ding, ding, ding. You got it, right? I'm in the back parking lot of a hotel because I'm standing outside the RV that we're traveling around the country in, and the dumpster or the garbage guy just came. I was just BSing with him earlier before we called, and they're back. They're back here taking out these dumpsters, right? The Dipsy dumpster, man. You can
got it. So I knew you were in an RV. So in my world, you're camping and you had some garbage. So you walked down to the garbage dump and you were throwing away some boxes, and that's what I had in my mind. But I like the back of the hotel's a good vision too. My last question for you, sir. What is your advice? Because again, Flynn is the name of the movie. Deliver the truth, whatever the cost. So what is your advice to the person in whatever world they're in? I don't know if anyone listening right now is as high as the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency or National Security Advisor, but we're all in our own worlds, right? Yep. We're all on whether the PTA or soccer coach or whatever, everyone's got their thing. So what is your advice to that person who wants to deliver the truth, whatever the cost? and to not get destroyed by the culture of wickedness that they might be surrounded by.
Yeah. So a couple of things, and thanks for asking me that. Be fearless, number one. I mean, be absolutely fearless. And I know that is not easy. It's easier to say than to do, but be fearless. I use this phrase, Mike, local action equals a national impact. That means get involved in your communities like you've never been involved in before. I mean, whatever you were doing yesterday, think about what you're going to do tomorrow. Like go to a school board hearing, go to a city council hearing, go run for local office, get involved with your local community. I can operate at the national and the international level. Let guys like me do that. And there's others around. There's other people that have, that you guys know. But most people operate at the local level. And I use this sort of bumper sticker phrase about stand up, step up, and speak up. Now's the time, right? Now's the time to do it, folks, because we are at the precipice of losing this country to really a socialist takeover. And I describe some of this in this story that I try to take people through, and it's a really powerful story in this movie. And why am I in the back parking lot, of a hotel listening to, a garbage truck, lifting up dumpsters? It's because I'm on a 35 city nationwide tour showing this movie, and I'm out in California right now. We've already put about 4,000 miles on. We're going to do about 15,000 miles total, maybe 16,000. And we're heading up to Washington State today. And people can go to flynnmovie.com, check us out where the tour is at. They can go there and they can stream it they can rent it now. It's available for rent today. So thank you guys. Thank you, Breitbart, for allowing me a few minutes on your wonderful show with your terrific audience. And I want people to, like I said, be fearless. I will be fearless with you, and I am not going to let these bastards take this country over without standing up to them and fighting back in our way. Using a rule of law that's supposed to be meaningful for all of us instead of there's two standards of the rule of law in our system. We cannot have that. We cannot have our rights infringed. I mean, so we have to be fearless, and we have to stand up, and we have to do more. And how you do more is you do more at your local level. You do more in your communities. And that's where I tell people you have to do that. If you don't do that, then you're giving up. And I don't want people to give up. I want people to stand up, and I want people to speak out. And there's nothing wrong with that. We still have our basic rights for now. And of course they're coming after those of us who are willing to put our necks out there. And I don't mind doing that. And I'm not going to do it, in a stupid way. I'm going to do it I'm going to use the system of government that we have, which is still our system of government. It is a citizens' republic. And we're the ones that are supposed to be in charge. Right, Mike? So anyway, that's my message to America, to your great audience. And I just, thank you guys for allowing me on for a little bit to just talk up this movie. And again, flynnmovie.com, Flynn, deliver the truth, whatever the cost. And we are available on streaming today, and it's helping me to fight back. So every penny that people put into this thing, we're going around this country, kind of proselytizing, if you will, telling people this same message, and it's resonating. And if I can touch 500 last night, maybe those 500 touch another 10 in each one of their lives, and that spreads this, the gospel of Flynn.
Would you go back in the Trump White House if he asked you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's hope.
Yep.
Stay safe on your travels, sir.
Yep. Hey,
appreciate your time.
All right. God bless you guys. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you. Flynnmovie.com. Flynnmovie.com. Again, you stream, buy, rent, all right there. And there's some showings near you as well. Flynnmovie.com/showings for that. FLYNN. Flynnmovie.com. Mike Slater, Breitbart News Daily. Spread the word.